Authentic learning involves focusing on connecting what students learn in the classroom to how they can apply these skills in real life situations at home, at work, and in solving everyday problems. As the relationship between Canada and the United States continues to change amid Trump's tariff threats and the development of AI is constantly advancing, what people have learned or are learning in school might actually help when it comes to handling all of this change. Brendan Caldwell, director at Caldwell Securities Limited, has recently gone back to the classroom and joins us now to discuss some of his top takeaways from heading back to business school. Brendan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Make me sound like Rodney Dangerfield. It's great.
Now, you recently returned to the classroom. You went to business school. You attended lectures at Harvard. What are some of your top takeaways?
Well, I go once a year because I've been in business for 30 odd years. So I've got the practice, but I'm getting the theory. And it's been an interesting, I've been going since 2015 for a week. And it's just a really good refresher on what's current. I mean, some of the key takeaways, of course, AI, which wouldn't have been really on the radar screen even as recently as 3 years ago as a topic, was, of course, big. Prescient was the issues around globalization and the end of the globalization era, which potentially we could be living through right now, where trade between nations, which had been rapidly expanding for north of 40 years, has been in contraction now and may decelerate. And the last time that happened, it ended, well, shall we say, badly. And then in the way that we interact as leaders and as people, Harvard Business School has probably got a terrible rap over the years, as they're still hearkening back to the trying to micromanage the Vietnam War. I think they've reacted to that by endeavoring to make their leaders a lot more connected to the world around them, to the people they lead, and indeed to themselves. So a kinder, gentler business school, perhaps.
Now, I'm curious, a lot of people will leave school sometimes and be like, how does this apply to the real world? So I'm curious, what leadership skills were discussed that would help a president, CEO, or a leader of a country that would really apply to what's going on in the world right now?
Well, I think there's a few things. As I mentioned, the globalization lectures. A brilliant man by the name of Rawi Abdullah um, uh, uh, leads them, and he's got tremendous insight into to global trade. And our topic was the last time trade ended, which was in 1914. And I think at that time, leaders couldn't really conceive that anybody would want to blow up the system that they created over the previous 40 or so years since 1870 with new technology, railroads, shipping, steam engine. There was a telegraph, telephone, motor cars. There was so much that was connecting the world, and people, at least in the developed world, were prospering to such a degree. The idea of blowing that up seemed inconceivable, and yet they did. So that is one takeaway. We could be in another repeat, maybe not of World War something, but people not appreciating what the globalization of the last 40 years has actually done for the world economy and the lives of hundreds of millions of people.
And with technology changing so rapidly, how can companies better communicate their message to their customers?
Well, I think the interesting is going to be about with AI and how that actually goes about being implemented, whether it's just used as a cost-cutting measure, a communications tool. But I think if a company has sold a product, a cable, a widget, to the extent that you've been about killing cables or widgets, those sort of things have become commoditized. Much better, I think, to use the tools, AI or otherwise, to create multiple links and look at yourself not as a product provider for your customers, but a solution provider. And as you're looking between nations, it's not about how much products here or there delivers, but what solutions that working together as nations living next to each other, we can help each other with.
And one of your professors actually recently published an article about the future of AI. Would you mind just breaking that down for us?
Well, there's a few things. I would say that one of the challenges that the mega, largely U.S. technology companies has, and this was Professor Mihir Desai's piece in the New York Times about the Ouroboros, the idea of a snake that swallows itself. It turns back on itself. These big mega companies, their biggest customers are each other. So to a certain extent, he is concerned that there's too much of a circular motion, that the technology and all the benefits are not reaching outward, but are actually just making the bigger companies more and more and more interdependent, which could lead to a much greater degree of vulnerability to the entire system than perhaps people appreciate.
Brendan, thank you so much for the time today and happy Family Day.
Happy Family Day, Theresa.